Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video on my channel. I hope you all are doing fine. I hope you all are doing alright. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Jessica. And yeah, on this channel I talk about different topics, and I'm currently trying to make different videos of different types. So I'm trying out some new videos. Like if you take a look at my older videos, I did some other videos in the past. But yeah, let's just get started with today's video. And so today I'm going to talk about why you can understand English but you can't speak fluently. And this is like just a little disclaimer, like I'm just talking about my own experience. Like I'm going to talk about what has helped me to improve my speaking skills or to just become fluent in the language. Of course, this is not going to work for everyone. Like everybody has their best method, like just how to learn a language in the best way. Like this depends from person to person. And yeah, but you can also just fill whatever language or almost all of the languages you can think of into the blank. Like of course with sign language as an example, it's going to be a different situation, but whatever language you're learning right now, you can also apply all of these steps I'm going to talk about now on how to improve or how to speak fluently. You can also apply all of these steps to your target language, whatever the language is. And so yeah, having said that, let's get started. So first of all, why are we even here? Like why did you click on this video? Like why is it just that a lot of us seem to understand languages, but we just can't speak the languages fluently? Like I just believe at school, as an example, languages are taught really passively. Like you do a lot of listening comprehension, you do a lot of reading comprehension, and then later on you also do some writing, but you rarely ever talk. And like I as an example, in my case, I never really talked a lot at school. I was really shy. I never really raised my hand that often, but also others never really talked a lot. Like it's not just me, like we just never really talked a lot at school. Like we never really did a lot of speaking exercises. And so while this can also be a good thing, at least at the beginning, like this is what I've noticed. From what I've noticed, it can really be good to, like whenever you're learning a language, to at first just learn a lot of words or learn at least some words to get to like an upper beginner, lower intermediate level, and to only then start talking. Because if you start talking before you're on that level and you don't even have like the basic knowledge, like just some basic knowledge of the grammar, it's going to be really hard, because then you're just like, it's going to be really frustrating. It's going to be really frustrating. However, there comes a time when a lot of us probably want to speak. Like this also, of course, depends on your personal goals. Like some people just learn a language in order to understand it. Not everybody wants to speak the language they're learning, but in my case, I really wanted to speak not only English, but all languages I've learned so far. And so let's talk about what might be holding you back when you want to speak. So like, of course, it could just be that you just don't know enough words yet, that you maybe just know basic words and you're still at the beginning, and you just don't simply have enough vocabulary yet to really freely express yourself, and to express yourself without having to look up every single word basically. But I believe a lot of us already know a lot of words before we want to start speaking. Like I believe, especially if you clicked on this video, you probably know enough words to actually speak the language and to maybe also even speak it fluently. But yeah, there are just some things that might be holding you back. So like one thing could be that you might be learning this language together with other people, and maybe someone else is already better than you, or you feel like this person can speak better than you, and so you're afraid to maybe make mistakes. Also, like maybe you want to speak to native speakers and you're just afraid to make mistakes, as an example. Like this could also be a reason. But here I can only tell you, you should not be afraid to make mistakes. Like you should just really get started with the speaking, like because like those people, like there are always some people who will maybe make fun of you, but like these are most of the time people who only speak one single language. So like don't listen to them, you know. And another reason could be, and this is what I've noticed when learning English, because I've only spoken German before I started speaking English. And so although I even listened to another language aside from German when I was growing up, I never really spoke a second language, except like I just spoke German. And so English, when I first listened to myself while I was talking, I was just like, what is this ugly shit? What is this? Like this, it sounded so weird to me. It sounded so strange. It felt so strange. Yeah, I even felt ashamed a bit sometimes, because I was just like, how can someone talk like this? How can you speak English? Like this is weird. You can't really speak it and still yet you are trying. Like I thought this was weird for some reason. But yeah, it's not. Like I can really tell you, it's not. Like, it's always good to try to improve. It's always good to speak a language, you know. It can always help you in life, probably. Like, I can only advise you to do it and to also actually speak the languages you're learning, because yeah, this is going to enrich your life to a certain extent, at least in my opinion. All right, but now how can we get started? So like, how can you get started to actually speak the language? So like, this might sound a bit too easy now, or a bit stupid, but like, you simply have to start speaking. Like, if you want to speak, you have to start speaking, because like, you really, like, you just have to train what you want to do. Like, if you want to become good at something, you have to do it over and over again, basically. And so now I'm going to tell you a bit more precisely what I exactly did, like all of these steps that I did in order to become fluent. And so just note, like, I did all of this by myself. Like, I believe it's probably more fun if you do this with someone else, like if you do this with a friend or with someone who also wants to learn the language and who wants to speak this language. Or like, at best also, like in the best case, with a native speaker, because they can just correct you at all times, basically. italki ad incoming. No, I don't have anyone to sponsor my videos, but like, an italki ad would be really fitting here, because yeah, there you can just book your classes with native speakers, you know. But like, this is really cost intensive, and you can also do it for free, but it is more work and it will take longer. Like, you can still become fluent in a language although you've never spoken to a native speaker. Like, I've never spoken English with a native speaker. Like, I've spoken English with maybe 5 different people, but I never spoke to a native speaker. I've never been to an English-speaking country. And so you can still, like, I still speak English fluently, so it can work, you know? I'm like the living proof. And so I improved my speaking in 2 different ways. There are like 2 different methods I've tried, and they are both really similar, but there's like a tiny difference. So like, the first method was that I would, like, in both methods, in both ways, I would think about a scenario. Like, I was just imagining I was meeting someone new, and I would maybe introduce myself. I would like to introduce myself. I would like to talk about my work, or my whatever, my hobbies, whatever, my family, all these kind of things. And I was then writing down what I could say to this person. Like, I was just talking to myself. I was saying this to an imaginary person, basically. But I was just basically preparing this kind of dialogue, or this kind of monologue beforehand. So I was writing down some words I might need. I was looking up the words and I was writing them down. Then I wrote down some half sentences, or like just some useful phrases. And then I tried to make a talk out of this, basically. I tried to talk using these phrases, basically, or using these half sentences. But sometimes this really ended up almost as a script. And so I was just reading from the script, basically. Like, while this method can really help you to, as an example, remember sentences and learn things by heart in your target language, this is also going to limit you a bit, because you are not really you're not really speaking freely. Like, you still have these sentences in front of you. You're just reading from them. You're not really thinking about them, and you're not really building them on your own in your head in that moment. And so yeah, this is like one reason why I eventually started to use the second method I'm going to talk about in a minute. But like with this first method, this is also really good to improve your pronunciation. But yeah, it's just like, sometimes it even felt like really as if I was reading from a script, you know. I was just at first I was really reading, just simply reading and trying to make it sound really natural, as if I was really having a conversation with someone. Then I would do this multiple times, and every single time I knew more things by heart. But as I said, I knew them by heart, and I was not really speaking freely, not as freely and as fluently as I wanted to. And so now we'll come to the second method. And like, this is the same situation. Like, you want to imagine some things that interest you, as an example, just again, a situation, or like, yeah, things that interest you. I don't know, if you really want to talk about your pet, if you really want to talk about your dog, whatever, just think about a situation. Like, the hardest part of this method is that this time you are only taking notes while you are actively trying to speak. So I would just think about a situation, and whenever I wanted to say something but I didn't know the word, I looked it up. Or if I wasn't sure whether this word is correct or not, I also looked it up. And while I was speaking, and sometimes I wasn't really sure whether you can really use this phrase or not, I would just write it down. And then later on I would check it if it's really correct or not, and if you can really say it like this. Maybe, like, sometimes I just thought You can also say this like this in English, and maybe this is just a German way of saying it, basically. And so I made a lot of notes while I was having these speaking sessions, basically. And so like I just did this for multiple times. I was just talking to myself, or I was like imagining another person I could talk to. And this really took some time. Like I did not become fluent overnight. Like this really took multiple talking sessions, basically. But like with this second method, you just, actively try to build sentences on your own. Like you don't have any notes before you get started. You just think about what you have in your head, and then you want to get started. And then you can take some notes. And then, like as an example, also if I looked up a new word, then I try to repeat it a few times during this talking session, basically. But I never really had pre-made notes, basically. I wasn't reading from a script or something like this and just made it sound natural, like I was really talking on my own by myself. And so now I'm going to give you some examples real quick, some scenarios you could think of when you want to improve your talking, basically. And so like in general, these are just some examples. You can just imagine all kinds of scenarios. These are just some examples that I also find quite useful. The first scenario would be meeting someone new, just randomly somewhere. Like let's say you just moved to a new city, or you're a tourist in a city, and like maybe in the country where your language that you're learning right now is spoken. And then you maybe want to ask for the direction. Do you know where I can find the hotel named whatever, or do you know where this or that street is, And then you can also introduce yourself, and you can think about how could this other person respond to you. Then you can talk a bit about yourself, about your life, why you decided to travel to the city, or why you decided to move to the city, why you decided to live here, basically, and so on. Like maybe you came here because of your job, because you want to study something here. And again, you can always just imagine what could the other person respond. And then like this, you can really practice either like a monologue, because you can also be like talking to yourself about your life, basically. You can be like, my name is Jessica, I just moved to New York, I want to work here, or I want to study here. I really like this or that place, and I miss this or that thing about Germany, because this is better in Germany, but this thing is really good in New York, this thing is really good in the United States. I don't know, I really miss my pet fish, whatever. You can just imagine something. And so, you can either practice like this, you can either practice a monologue or like a dialogue. And like this, you can also really use different persons. Like you can use the first person, I moved here, I did this and that, or like you can ask questions to this person. How are you doing today? Do you know a restaurant nearby, or whatever? Or you can also use the third person. My sister also once went to New York, or whatever. Or you can talk about we, like our family, we do this, we do that. You can just use different persons, and you can also use different tenses. Like you can talk about your present situation, you can talk about the past, what happened to you yesterday, you can talk about what you plan on doing tomorrow. And like I also know with these different persons, like in English it's the same. It's like I speak, you speak, he, she, it speaks, we speak, you speak, they speak. But like in French or Italian, as an example, like or also in Spanish, you just have different endings for different persons. And so like this, you can really work on this. And so like a second scenario could be a talk with family members, as an example, while having dinner. You're all sitting at the table, and there you can really also use some informal language. You're using informal words. And then like a third scenario could be like you're meeting a friend, or you're meeting multiple friends, and again here you're having more of an informal language, but at the same time we probably all don't really speak exactly the same way with our friends as we speak with our family members, or with our parents, as an example, with our children, whatever. Like however, if you have children, like you can also think about how could you talk to your children in your language, basically. How could you talk to your kids in your new language that you're now learning. And then like the fourth scenario could be at the office, or like just at your working place. But you can also really imagine if you worked at an office, as an example, like there you just need a more formal language. You need formal expressions and formal words, because most of us probably talk to our boss in a more formal way. Like not always, like there are also other cases, but like I believe most of us use a bit more of a formal language. And so like the fifth scenario could be going grocery shopping, going out to eat at a restaurant, ordering some food at a restaurant as an example. Like just imagine some scenarios. Also some really, like you can imagine really all kinds of things. And so while I was doing this, I was always looking up some words that I needed, like especially if I didn't know a word, I was looking up the word that I needed, and I was making sure I was looking up new words. And then if I had, like if I just saw a new word and I just learned a new word, basically, I tried to repeat it a couple of times during my talking session, basically. And so I would also write down useful phrases, I would write down useful sentences. And so all of these things together have really helped me to improve my English and to actually become fluent in English. Like this is just like the speaking part. Like I also watched a lot of series and movies on Netflix, and I also made a video about this. Like I made a separate video. If you want to check it out, I'm going to leave the link somewhere in the description probably. And in the other video, I'm just talking about how to learn English or any language on your own, basically, especially on the internet, with the help of the internet. And so one thing real quick, I don't really know if this has something to do with speaking fluently, but I really believe if you want to speak a language fluently, you also have to learn curse words. And I know a lot of people, like oftentimes you don't really learn them, you never really learn them, like of course not at school, but also not at other places. You rarely learn curse words. But I think it's really important to learn them as well, because like just imagine you are walking somewhere on the street and someone calls you like this, and you are just like, yeah, I don't know what you just said, you're just smiling, like you want to make sure to know what people are saying, you know. And so yeah, I really always learn curse words as well, and I think the best source for this is again like movies or series, or also music. Like of course it always depends on what kind of content you're consuming, of course. Like if you watch movies or series, or if you listen to music where there aren't any curse words, of course then you can't really learn this. But like if you know what I mean, you know, in a lot of music you learn a lot of words that you don't find in your normal language learning textbook. You know what I mean. Alright, so I think that's it for today. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you would give it a like. And if you didn't like it, feel free to let me know why in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching until now, and see you in the next video. Alright, bye.